Yo, what's up guys? Just resetting this video. I actually recorded this a moment ago and then realised that the microphone wasn't on. So here we go again, time for round two. So I'm going to try and set this up. Hopefully you can see it properly. Just make sure that the microphone's actually working this time. Good. Right. So, hi, Alex again from Elite Football Conditioning. And today I'm continuing on with the hamstring exercises, or the hamstring related theme from last week. So if you managed to see the video that I put out on hip mobility and making sure you've actually released the right areas to help allow that hip extension and take tension out of the hamstrings and the lower back, then good. If you've been working on that and you're a player who is currently experiencing a bit of tight low back pain, or you feel like you've got tight hamstrings constantly, these exercises here and the way you use them are going to be crucial to your next steps. And this is something that you can start doing now, as soon as you've watched this video, or tomorrow, or the next time you're in the gym. Now, the first one, the fundamental one, very common exercise, very useful exercise for strengthening the hamstrings, the barbell Romanian deadlift, or Romanian deadlift, RDL for short. Looks a little bit like this, and I have spoken about this previously in one of my videos, where you stand tall, chest up, and you drop the hips back, putting the hamstrings on stretch before you then stand up again. Now again here, this position at the bottom is where the hamstrings are under a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and you're coming back up. So if you've already got quite tight hamstrings and there's a lot of tension in there, this is a really good way to magnify that and maximize it and bring even more of that to the party. Not the best exercise to do in that situation. The reason for that is the hamstrings are already very busy. If you have got that tight lower back and that tightness in them already, there's very much a chance that you are striking and pulling through, and a lot of that hip extension is being generated through the hamstrings and the lower back, rather than the hip itself and the glutes, which is the ones that we want to, they're the muscle we need to get in the game. So if that is you, stay away from the Romanian deadlift, all right? Your hamstrings have already got a lot of work to do, putting force into the ground. They're also going to play an important role on not just bending the knee and bringing you into flexion here, but when you're striking a ball, they're going to help decelerate the leg and decelerate that hip coming through. So as you're coming through into hip flexion there, your hamstrings are actually going to be holding on, trying to pull you back into that position. So they need to be able to do that. They need to be strong. Don't use this exercise for this situation though. All right, we can use that to strengthen them, but not in this scenario. What I want you to do instead is a barbell hip thrust, or a hip thrust variation if you can. So this is going to allow us some fundamental position changes. The first thing I want to talk to you about, make sure you've got some sort of bar pad, unless you really want to go hardcore and just go with a metal barbell across your hip. You know, if that's you, be my guest. But if you haven't got a bar pad, use either a gym towel, t-shirt, anything you want, just wrap it around the bar. Make sure you've got a little bit of a cushion there. Even a gym mat, that'll do. Okay, and then set the barbell up so you can get yourself underneath it. Here I'm just using a bench. You can use a step box or anything else that's elevated and slightly cushioned. Roll the bar back so it's across your hip, and then use your elbows to bring yourself up into the start of a glute bridge position. So the big difference between this and the RDL is the RDL targets the hamstrings. It wants the hamstrings to lengthen and put tension through them so it can train them. Here, we want to keep the hamstrings quiet. We want this hip extension movement as we push the hips up. We want that movement driven through the glutes. Now, the glutes will do that as long as we hit a couple of key positions. Number one, we want the knees about hip width apart, and you're going to keep them fairly close together. You're not going to be flaring them out to the side. You're just going to keep them tight, running along the track of your toes. Your shin wants to be more or less vertical. And I've just realised it's getting really hard holding this barbell here, but I'm going to power through. So keep your shins as vertical as you can. If you've got a mirror handy, that'll be perfect. Then you want to keep your ribs angled down and away. We're not going to be rolling around the edge of the bench, turning the hips up towards the sky or turning the chest up towards the ceiling, because that means that we will be rolling through the lower back. We want to keep all of this, our torso position, fairly neutral, and then use the glutes to push that bar up. Again, keeping the knees relatively straight, pointing forwards and keeping them fairly tight together. And if it helps, pull your belly button in towards your spine rather than pushing out and then rolling around. So keep everything tucked in into that position. Now, the benefit of that is it allows us to work that hip extension and train that movement by keeping the hamstrings short and keeping them quiet. So it teaches them that they can just be silent, they can shut off in that, and it allows us to promote more movement, more extension, more force, driven from the booty, driven from the glutes. And that's what we need. So when it comes to sprinting, or once we've started building that up and we've got that hip extension movement pattern dominated by the glutes, then we can start to use sprinting as a preventative strategy for avoidance of hamstring injuries. So get to work on this one straight away. Make sure it is being driven from the glutes and you're getting those positions that I spoke about there correct, and you're not simply lengthening your hamstrings by performing the RDL, or even you could even cross this over and carry this on into Nordics. There is a time and a place for targeting the hamstrings, but if you've got tight hamstrings already, tight lower back, and they're fairly weak, don't go and do those things. Start with this, and then we can start to sprinkle them in on top. So hopefully this video has been useful. Obviously, second time around recording it for me. If you have found it interesting, useful, it's giving you a different insight into what you can do in the gym, what you might be doing wrong, then give it a little like, give it a thumbs up, give us a comment, let me know what difference it makes for you. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. So take care, guys.